Hey guys, welcome to the first tip for DJ Mike's Micro Tips. Thank you for joining me. If you heard about this from the High Input Games channel or podcast, then I appreciate you for watching us there too. If you've never heard of High Input Games, make sure to go and check us out on Twitch and YouTube. This is going to be the first of many tips that I hope to bring to you all and help you in the world of IT. I have been working in IT for a little over 10 years, and so I'm just trying to bring some of this knowledge that I am around every day to the masses and just try and help everybody with some of these frustrations that you run into. One of the first things that I want to bring to everybody is something that's very important these days, and that's privacy. One of the things that I do not like about Windows 10 is that when you first go out and buy a computer at the store, typically you turn it on and most people don't know what to click around. If you're familiar with those screens, then you might be, but 8 out of 10 people don't know what they're doing. They click, they create their account, they go and boom, they start using Windows. I want to take you a step back here, and after you're done getting into Windows, there's something I want everybody to do. Even if you've already been using your computer for a while, I think this is something that's important to everybody. There are some settings that Windows 10 will natively turn on that submits some data from your PC to Microsoft. And personally, I don't like to have any of that turned on unless I run into a situation where I absolutely need them. So let's go ahead and dive right in and take a look at that. So the first thing I'm going to have you do is click on the Start menu, and then I'm going to have you click on the little cogwheel here for settings. Once you get to that screen, I'm going to have you scroll all the way down and look for privacy. It's going to start you off in the general settings. Most of these settings are going to be turned on by default. I have already turned them off. So let's go ahead. These three settings are usually what are turned on right from the get-go. The advertising ID is typically turned off. So we're going to turn all of those off. The suggested content in the settings app always annoys me. I can't stand things just popping up unnecessarily, so I love turning that off. I don't use any speech in Windows 10, so I shut that off. I don't need it listening for me and waiting for my feedback. Inking and typing, I do not want it to remember my key presses, so I am turning that off. For diagnostics and feedback, it will be on required when you first get into your PC. If you haven't already made a change to those settings, I recommend changing it to optional so that it just sends whatever data is absolutely necessary and nothing more. Improving inking and typing off. One of the big things is feedback frequency. What you're going to want to do is just go ahead and hit never. I don't think that they should be asking you for your feedback every 10 minutes. Drives me nuts. You just want an enjoyable experience. And if there's any diagnostic data that you think may have already been logged, then you can go ahead and hit delete. And this will tell you the last time that you requested that data to be deleted. Activity history, I usually turn these off. I don't have any reason to pick up my history on every computer I jump on. This is my main one. Even if you have more, you probably isn't necessary for you to need that history on the other device. You can track it through something like Edge if you're really looking for like your browser history or your favorites. Change location history off, and I always clear it if it has already been on. I don't need my location data going to Microsoft. The next two are a little bit tricky because most people will be using their camera and microphone, especially these days. If you need to use those, then you're going to want to make sure to go to the bottom of this. You can turn this top one off unless you're using one of the apps in this list. If not, turn it off, come down, and make sure you allow desktop apps to access your camera. This will allow you to use things like Teams, Discord, a variety of different apps that you may be using. GoToMeeting. Make sure that this bottom one allow desktop apps to access your camera to stay on, or else you're going to have a problem. Microphone's the same thing. If you need any of the apps in this list to use your microphone, then you're going to want to leave it on. Otherwise, turn it off. And just make sure that the bottom option is turned on. And actually, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to turn this on, disable all of the apps in this list, and then make sure that allow desktop apps is the only thing that's ticked on. Same thing for camera. So we're going to go in here and we're going to make sure this is on. Everything else is off. Allow desktop apps to access your camera is on. That will make sure that apps that aren't Windows UI based will be able to access the camera. So any of the apps in this are the Windows UI apps. Going on, voice activation. I do not want Windows listening for my voice, so we'll turn that off. Notifications are some of the most annoying things in Windows 10, and a lot of times you'll get them from things like Google Chrome, and they pop up and make you think you have viruses. So I would turn the notifications off. Account info, don't need any of that data going to Microsoft, so turn that off. Contacts, turn off. Calendar and email are another one that are interesting because if you're using any of the native Windows 10 mail or calendar apps, then you're going to have to leave these on or else they won't work. Make sure you do that if you're using it. Otherwise, turn it all off. I don't make phone calls, so that all of that gets turned off. Call history, same thing. We're not making phone calls. Turn it off. Email, I use Outlook, so I don't need any of that. So we're going to turn that off. I don't need Windows 10 to be accessing my tasks. Messaging, I also don't do MMS on my computer, so we're going to turn all that off. Radios, do you want apps to be in control of your Bluetooth or Wi-Fi devices or your Wi-Fi radios? If not, turn that off. Your Wi-Fi will still work, I promise. Other devices, we do not want devices that are unpaired to be able to communicate with PC, so turn that off. Background apps. I find that if you leave this on, many of these apps will open much faster. However, most of them also sit in the background and just run for no reason. If you're not using the camera app, it doesn't need to be running in the background. So I turn them all off. I don't need any of them running. App diagnostics, this is another one I turn off. Unless they need the diagnostics, I don't send them. Automatic file downloads will typically already be off. If it's not, you can disable that if it's already allowed. I don't need documents, pictures, or videos to be able to be accessed on my system. So I'm not using any of these apps. Turn that off. File system is another one. Go ahead and turn that all off. Once you've got all of this off, you are now just a little bit more in control of your data. I hope that you like the start to this journey of our Micro Tips channel, and I hope that you'll join us again. If you haven't checked out High Input Games, make sure to do that. Otherwise, don't forget to give me a like and subscribe to the channel. See you guys next time.